XRP explosion after SEC implosion. Folks, you're not going to want to miss this update because I know the SEC appeal versus the Ripple case here bringing a lot of folks down. A lot of folks saying, oh crap, here we go for another year, 2 years, maybe even longer before this case is over. But the fight is still going on. And if you want to see this victory through and you want XRP to go to a higher price and finally explode, and as I'm going to show you later in this episode, become the biggest chain for real world asset tokenization, if you want to see that for the XRP Ledger and for other blockchains as well, then you're going to want to stick around. You're going to want to see this fight. You're going to want to participate actively and engage in helping us expose the SEC, exposing their fraud, and helping us create a level playing field. That's all we ask for. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on a level playing field. So help me God, and get the hell out of the way if you're trying to stand in the way of that. Now, let's get started off because this is what it all comes down to, folks. It's not just his technology disrupting the banking system, DeFi disrupting the business model, but some of these crypto assets are ready to serve as reserve currencies. We know XRP is ready to be a reserve currency. Ripple's been working on that simple goal since 2017. But we look at the lifespan of global reserve currencies since 1450, shared here by Brad Kimes, Digital Perspectives, and a huge shout out to Brad. The US dollar is at the 80-year mark, and we've seen that these currencies have lasted about 80 to a little over 100 years in their life cycle. So for Portugal, it was 80 years, Spain 110, Netherlands 80, France 95, Britain 105, and then currently the United States 80 years, 1944 after Bretton Woods until now, and we're seeing the conversations that are happening right now about a new Bretton Woods, a new deal to be done. Well, they're going back to gold. We see that's underway. We see that some are leaning into XRP and digital assets as a neutral bridge currency. What a great solution. What I love is the ability when you marry the two. You take what's great, what has real value from the old world, and which has been a reliable store of value and basically a standard going back now for centuries, which is gold. And you marry that up with this new technology, the DLT neutral bridge currency, where you can source the best liquidity instantaneously at no cost. This is the perfect marriage, a match made in heaven for rolling out a new Bretton Woods, a new agreement in a true level playing field, where we don't allow one country to have the reserve currency status and abuse that role of having that reserve currency status. And that's what this whole war is over. Now, what I'd love to see is the United States lean into this technology like it's happening in other countries and jurisdictions like the UAE, which just eliminated taxes on all crypto transactions. This is how you lean in. This is a positive example of how we could be, bringing about cryptocurrency legislation and regulations and rules of the road. And actually allowing entrepreneurs and capitalists and more investment to come into the country by reducing taxes, not just on crypto, but other taxes on businesses as well. We know some folks want to bring and raise the corporate tax. They want to introduce an unrealized capital gains tax. That's all burdensome upon entrepreneurs and capitalists and businesses in our economy. We need to open this thing up. Now, we're seeing other countries do it. I'd love to see it here. And they're the ones that forced this. It had to be this way because they came after us. Never forget that. We didn't want it to be this way. We don't want to have the red folder and be fighting this case out. Ripple didn't want to have to spend $200 million battling the SEC, but that's how it had to be. So here we are. Stuart Adara. My favorite scene in The Bronx Tale is when the motorcycle gang bullies their way into the local bar. When they refuse to leave, the boss calmly locks the door, says, quote, "Now yous can't leave," and then proceeds to annihilate the gang. And that's what we're doing through our peaceful protest of stacking real reserve currencies, gold, silver, XRP, and others. But peacefully protesting and exposing them in the courts right now. We had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. We had to bring in some of the best legal assassins in the world. We've had to assemble teams. Many damages have been done, but we are not leaving. We will not relent, and we're going to continue to fight until we get this level playing field. Now, with that same vibe, with that same energy, we saw at Trump's rally yesterday, his return rally to Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump, alongside Elon Musk, made the bold statement to the deep state by playing Nessun Dorma, famously featured in The Sum of All Fears, where all the traitors are executed. And can someone remind me what the penalty for treason is again? Yeah. Yeah. Nearly 3 months ago, this was the site of an assassination attempt on Trump, and now he's back sending the deep state a defiant message in return. And this is what I bring it back to Stuart Adara saying, you know, he loves that scene out of the movie where he tried to give him an option. We tried to settle up with the SEC. We tried to say, hey, we don't have to go down this road. I'm going to show you guys later the Veritasium crowd, what they've done in exposing the SEC and the head SEC lawyer, George Tenreiro, who's the head at the SEC case against XRP. He just signed off on the appeal. And I'm going to show you guys what they've brought forward in the representations of fraud, the allegations of fraud that George Tenreiro has committed going after Veritoken holders and going after Reggie Middleton and their project. All of this comes back to us exposing them in the courts. And the point that I was going to make there was Reggie Middleton took his product into the SEC and demonstrated it before them. And they said, oh, you better shut this down. And then he shuts it down, and then they go before the court and say, oh, he doesn't even have a product. He's raising all this money, and he doesn't have a finished product. Well, Reggie took the software into your offices, showed you how it worked. You said, wow, this is pretty incredible, but this is a security, so you better shut it down. He does that, and then they still go after him, and then they actually get to freeze his assets and issue a temporary restraining order based off of all of these misrepresentations and outright fraud against him. So once again, we tried to come into your offices. We tried to play nice, just like the scene there, as Stuart Adara says right here in the Bronx Tale. We tried to get them to leave nicely. They refused to leave. We've been left with no choice but to expose you guys completely. Now, continuing on, this is Eleanor Terrett reporting on Goober. That'd be Gerber Grewal. We nicknamed him Goober. Will be heading to Milbank Law later this month. Former SEC Co-Director of Enforcement George Canelos, who currently represents Binance, also works there. Grewal brought the SEC's lawsuit against Binance last year. So they're literally suing, Binance, but then they leave to go represent the law firm that's representing Binance. It's one big revolving door. Just like George Carlin said, it's one big club, and we ain't in it. Goober, who left his enforcement director position on the same day the SEC filed their Ripple appeal notice, is heading to Milbank Law Firm. In October 2019, Milbank partner Douglas Landy co-authored Distributed Ledger Technology as a tool for streamlining transactions, chapter in blockchain and cryptocurrency regulation, from Cowboy Crypto. Landy left in 2021 to White & Case, where he is currently partner, and also where previous SEC crypto and cyber litigation chief Layden Stewart departed to after leaving the SEC. She is also ex-Shearman and Sterling, which is Bill Hinman's old law firm, our good friend Billy Boy Hinman. See how tightly knit this all is? She happens to be the SEC lawyer who led the Coinbase lawsuit. It's like they're giving themselves work. While they're at the SEC, they go file all these crypto lawsuits. And then now that the SEC is getting completely exposed and losing to these crypto companies that actually have the money and the you-know-what to go fight them, like Ripple, like Coinbase, like Grayscale, now they leave and they go represent the law firms that are representing these crypto projects. It's one big club and we ain't in it. Look who contributed to blockchain and crypto regulation piece at Milbank, where Goober left the SEC to join. None other than the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. And here we come back. You guys thought the ETHgate was over. No, it ain't over. And yes, it's all tied back. The contributing editor is Josias Dewey, who is 25 years and current partner at Knight and Hale, which is also an Enterprise Ethereum Alliance member. You may want to see this as Cowboy Crypto tags in Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, and Stuart Adara. What a tightly knit group. What a tight group of folks there. Now, this is what I'm talking about right here, folks. This was sent to me by Sovereign Riz, and I was reached out to by Reggie Middleton. I talked about this yesterday. The SEC's head lawyer in the XRP appeal is now being exposed for his misrepresentation and professional misconduct and interference and outright fraud here with what he's done against the Veritoken holders and Reggie Middleton. So what they've put together here is very interesting. This is a formal complaint, a bar complaint that they formally filed and sent to the New York bar, right? So they go through here, but it's really interesting what they've created. They created a victim impact statement PDF generator. So impact statement PDF generator, it's right here. And it takes you to this link right here. VeryDAO, New York bar complaint against George Tenreiro for professional misconduct and tortious interference. This puts it all together. Potential fraud on the court, alleged witness tampering and coercion. That's right. This guy went to Very token holders and tried to get them to testify against Reggie Middleton. And they were all saying, no, we don't feel like we were, part of any fraud or Ponzi scheme or anything like that. We knew what we were investing in, and Reggie Middleton has delivered on that. We are not part of any Ponzi scheme. And in the testimony, this person who was a Very token holder testifies that George Tenreiro tried multiple times, pressed him, like uncomfortably pressed him, urging him to testify against Reggie Middleton. Potential misrepresentation of evidence, and all this led to a temporary restraining order which frees the assets of Reggie Middleton, saying that he had been spending millions of dollars to all these foreign entities and all this. It was all legitimate business activity. And Reggie Middleton and his lawyers and everything, they brought that before the court. And that's why they were able to reach a settlement with the SEC. Because in every single case, what does the SEC always try to do? They always try to go, they always try to stretch the truth. They always try to stretch their power. They're trying to shut you down and freeze you, even though there was no fraud committed. Now, Reggie Middleton did an ICO, and he settled up over that. He admitted no wrongdoing, no guilt, but they settled up. And the continued abuse of the Very token holders, them trying to stop, the SEC literally trying to stop Very token holders and trying to say that what you're selling is a security. Well, now the Very token holders are citing the Ripple case and that precedent, that XRP in and of itself is not a security, and that the Very tokens in and of themselves are not a security. And they're also citing the debt box case, where the SEC got sanctioned by the courts for their misrepresentation, falsifying evidence, and getting a temporary restraining order against Debtbox and bankrupting that company as well, only to lose and be completely sanctioned, and the SEC literally shuttering the office behind the failed Debtbox case in Utah. So the Salt Lake City, Utah office was shut down. The director of enforcement, he's bailing, going to get a cozy job over at that firm that we listed off earlier. So see, the SEC is literally imploding right now before us. Every single move that they make, we already got the slews on it. Huge shout out to Cowboy Crypto for today's evidence that he's been able to compile for us. One of the OGs and directly over the target. This has been a community effort. Now the XRP community getting together with the Very token holders, and we find ourselves against the same enemy. And this goes deep. I got time today to finally read through that whole thing that the Very token holders had put together. And I'm not going to say that it's shocking, because nothing surprises us anymore with this SEC and what they've done. But the extent, how extensive it is, what they've been able to put together, in the blatant fraud and misrepresentation before the courts. I mean, guys, this is literally an episode out of Suits. Maybe you guys have seen the show Billions with Paul Giamatti playing the Southern District of New York attorney, right? The backroom deals, the shady activity, the falsifying, bending the law. This is straight out of a scripted Hollywood movie, but it's like these Hollywood shows are showing us what really happens, which is why I'm so deep into the show Suits right now. I went through Succession. I love that one. I went through Billions. Love that one. And then the most recent one that I'm in right now, I think I'm on season 4, is Suits, which I'm having a great time watching that show. No, I don't like many shows these days, but I like this one because as dramatic as it is, and maybe a little bit overly dramatic, right? I mean, it's Hollywood, right? But you come to find out that this is how the world actually works. This is how these guys actually operate, right? They're willing to go this far. They're willing to go this lengths. It is one big club. It is one revolving door. And these guys are shady as hell at best. Outright criminal thugs at worst. And the problem that we've had is that this is a technology that can move humanity forward. So let's let it breathe. Let it open up. Which brings me to my final point here. the competitive advantage that XRP's in. XRP explosion after SEC implosion. The SEC implosion's underway. The XRP explosion is set to begin at any moment now. Perfectly primed. And I'm going to show you right here. This is Will, Crypto Insight UK. Found this clip here from the most recent interview. This is a fireside chat with David Schwarz and one of the founders of Acceler. And he says quite confidently, more than once in the talk, that the XRP Ledger will be the biggest real-world asset chain. Take a quick listen, and I'm just going to play 15 seconds of this.
We've done a deep dive yet with your team, but it's something we're prioritizing now and just bringing new RWAs over to XRPL. And I think you guys have a big edge there, and we can make it probably the biggest chain, right, for RWA adoption. So I think there's some interesting directions there.
So you kind of already answered the next question, which is what would you foresee as the evolution of the EVM sidechain? So
instead of doing just the EVM sidechain, now what we're doing is we're allowing Acceler to create multiple bridges, not just to the EVM sidechain, but to 55 other different blockchains. So we're going to have complete interoperability. But like he said right there, the interoperability and being able to bring that liquidity back to the XRP Ledger, that's what's going to make the XRP Ledger the biggest real-world asset chain. When you think about the premise of that idea, throwing something out there like that, what does that mean? Well, as you tokenize trillions upon tens of trillions upon hundreds of trillions of dollars of value over the coming 5 to 10 years, XRP slated to be the biggest real-world asset chain. That's a pretty bold statement. Pretty bold statement, right? I've also speculated and thrown out my prediction that the RLUSD will become the biggest stablecoin by market cap in the space as well. So think of that potential scenario, right? Where Ripple USD becomes the largest stablecoin in the space and the XRP Ledger becomes the biggest real-world asset chain, right? This is what we're fighting for. This is what's coming. We have the facts on our side. We know we're going to win our case. The worst that's going to happen to us is that Ripple is going to pay a speeding ticket. It's equivalent to a speeding ticket, the infraction, the Section 5 violations that they've committed. Oh, wow. Slap me on the wrist, punish me a little bit. Okay, $125 million. It's a rather slap on the wrist, speeding ticket infraction equivalent penalty in the world of securities. And so Ripple is going to pay their fine, or if this does go to appeal and they battle this out, either way, this case is going to come to an end. And the XRP Ledger is perfectly slated. If XRP's performance this bull run has been hindered by this, well, that's part of the damage is done, which should make every single one of us want to be part of this fight even more so. People are complaining about XRP price, but don't want to sit down and have the conversation about the red folder and the damages done to our community and what we can actively be doing to fight this back. Now, if you are part of the very token holders, they've put together something for their community, a statement, damages done basically with a PDF generator, and they've made it super easy. They've attached all of the evidence, and they've made it super easy for their community to be able to put forward an official complaint to the New York State Bar against this lawyer, who turns out to be the SEC's head lawyer against XRP as well. Now is the time for our community to prepare similar defenses. Now, the red folder, not just a meme. We need to be preparing our defenses, and we need to be ready to be, taking offensive actions against the SEC until we can get that level playing field. That's all we want. That's all we ever wanted. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on a level playing field. If you guys are in this fight with me, and if you understand what this means for XRP long term, the competitive advantage, along with all of the utilities that are coming here, and why it's so important that the SEC had to file an appeal, even though their case is so weak. Their case is so weak, yet they still file an appeal. Why? Because XRP is that powerful. It is going to become the biggest real-world asset chain. We don't even have smart contracts, and we got guys throwing out statements like that. So between where we're at now and that point here sometime in the future, whether that's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years away, that's the opportunity, that's the arbitrage, being able to invest in it now before we get to that point, before we get that XRP explosion. The beautiful thing is that in the meantime, we get to watch the SEC implosion. And I believe that it's our duty as Americans to bring accountability to our government. We will not stop till we get that level playing field, so help us God. If you appreciate what we're doing, Can you tap it? Can you smack it for me? We'd greatly appreciate that. Make sure you have subscribed and hit that notification bell. Everything else is at my website, zachrector.com. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.